I'm back for another session. I'm going to be looking at scene 4 of the short film Good Friends, taking a visual look at the rough cut, making sure that all the clips on the timeline are what we need to tell the story. I'm looking at this with the audio off right now because I want to make sure that this film makes sense visually as well as the audio. So I'm going to just look at it with the sound off to make sure that I can tell what's going on visually, even if I couldn't hear it. Okay, so in the story, Johanna and Felix are preparing to do a drug transaction, and neither of them has experience with doing this, so they're waiting around for the guy to show up in the alleyway to satisfy the drug dealer who Felix pissed off. And he dragged his best friend into it, so she's making sure that he does it correctly. So let's start with the waiting that happens at the beginning of the scene. So at the end of the last scene, we're at the cafe. Johanna's wondering how this is going to go. We cut to scene 4, the alley. Oops. So we start with Johanna pacing back and forth, Felix waiting around in the background there. Okay, we do have a shot closer up of him. This is just meant to convey the idea that he is thinking about something that she's not, and he's alone in this thought, which is why he's alone in the frame. Okay, then we go back to the situation that they're both in. She paces back and forth a bit, peeks out. She sees he's coming, so the guy that they're there to meet is showing up, so she lets him know. He looks out too. I think their eye line could have been better, but it's all right. So then they both walk out. Okay? Now he's walking up. Now, we are going to look to see if we have any footage at all of him walking up, because it seems that we only have him approaching from the POV shot. All right, and then we're at our Western cowboy establishing shot. Now this is an establishing shot because we're establishing the geography of the alley. We've only seen it from a limited perspective from when she was pacing back and forth this way and the camera's facing that way. So this is our real establishing shot. We get to see that the alley has this pathway, it has that pathway, it has this stuff back here, and it has the area that we've already seen. So it is establishing the geography. Also, this is a Western in that we have the good guy on one side, and we have the good guys on one side, and then we have the bad guys on the other side. And this is kind of how Westerns are, those famous shots where the good guys are facing off the bad guys. They kind of frame them that way. Okay. So there they are, the three of them. We go in for a closer up, a medium shot, medium 3 shot. All right. So then Felix wants to start the transaction. He says, let's deal. So we have a dirty 2 shot here. Dirty because we're getting a piece of Caban into it. And then 2 shot, we have Johanna and Felix. Okay. Now I did find this shot from yesterday, which was missing, but now we have a point of view of Caban. He's saying, you got the money. And goes to the bag. Now this, gotta wonder if this is correct. Yes, do you have the money? She looks to him. Okay, so that is correct. She looks worried, but she doesn't say anything. She's kind of letting him do the transaction. She's kind of there as like just kind of overseeing it. So that's fine. He struggles to undo the bag. I like this. I like this shot because it's like everybody's waiting for him to do this correctly. And the idea really is that they're all amateurs at this, even this guy. So it's like we're all kind of like, all right, well, it's your turn to do this part of the transaction. No, it's your turn, okay? And now you got to take the money out of the bag, and now you have to present it. She's just kind of worried about the whole thing. So I like the idea of worry here because he's taking an exceptionally long time with the bag. Okay, now that might have been a too quick or too strong reaction there. So maybe we want to cut this. I think I'll drop a pin right here. And do a performance edit. Cut this shot before Johanna's expression. The expression is too quick and too much. So we go from that to this angle, and then we get Caban's expression. Wonder if we cut it in a little bit, if that will work a little bit better. This isn't really necessary to do right now, but I'm just going to try it and see. I'm matching up his smile in this shot with this one. So yeah, that does cut a little better. And if we have to have her performance be a little bit overplayed, better to go into it in the middle instead of her starting off in the right position and then going to a bad position, which would draw attention to it. So we might as well go to it in the middle of the act, and then it gets worse. So she took it from level 2, from 1 to 2 when she didn't need to go to 2, and then she went to 3. So instead we'll start in the middle of 2, we'll go to 3. We may be able to cut this part out, so I'll drop a pin here. It's going to be a performance edit and try to cut away from too strong. Performance is too strong. So we want to cut away from this because it's too much. She's on his side. She can't doubt him while she's on his side right there in the middle of a transaction. Now there's something to be said for the fact that it's supposed to be comedy, but I think that there's still a fine line between comedy and campy. Okay, so now he's saying he's just gonna, why don't you just hand that money over? So now he's decided he's gonna rob them. Johanna gets panicked, okay, and she does something drastic. She knows that if they lose that money, now the drug guy that he's trying to satisfy is gonna have lost his money too. So then they're gonna be in deeper trouble. She can't let that happen. So she decides to take it upon herself to take the money and safeguard it. She takes the money from Felix. I like this shot. She stuffs it in her pocket. Okay. And she's got this look of defiance on her face. Now I wonder if the hand push is necessary. He's not going forward. And then we have the face-off shot. I like that shot. Okay, starts pushing her around, try to provoke her. He's standing there. Was this shot stabilized? Let me see. No, it wasn't stabilized. Was it cropped? Was not cropped. Nothing was done to it. It's just a little weird that it's turning red on the timeline there. Okay, so that's the shot where he's watching. Let's see if we can replace this with a better performance. We'll go ahead and drop a pin here. So we'll try to replace this shot with a better performance. Okay, drop that pin right there. Oh, wrong color. I like them all the same color. Okay, moving on. All right, now we have the shot that I like, which is too short, so we may have to cut it. This shot, suddenly he's getting way more physical, and she looks over her shoulder at Felix. Felix isn't doing anything. Now I wonder if we can go from here to this one, if it would cut well. Give me a second to check something out real quick. Yeah. Things that were offline, so I just want to make sure we're still good. Yeah, we're good. All right, where was I? All right, so the question is, now I like this shot. This is where she looks over her shoulder, and then
Instagram network. You have 6.
Yeah, thank you for that. She looks over her shoulder at Felix. We cut to Felix, see his reaction. He's not going to do anything about it. Then we go back to him. Now the question is, do I need this in between? Because I think we just go from Felix back to her. Let's give it a try. We'll cut that. Move that over. Let's see how it plays. That's way too short, though. Now the idea here is he's supposed to see her making eye contact with him, and then he threatens Felix. Then we have the issue with the continuity issue where he's got two hands here, one hand here. And then Felix is doing this weird performance here. Did I replace this earlier? You know, I'm going to give Brad some credit here. I think the reason that he moved over like that is because when he turned around, the eye line wasn't where it needed to be. So he needed to get into his eye line. I think that's why he did that. Now this may turn out to be something that will work. The issue is the hands. Now there is going to be an issue where if I can't find an angle right here where he has one hand, or find an angle from this side where he has two hands, it might just be one that we're just going to have to try to get away with. We can check. Let's go to the bank, see what we got. Let's go to camera A. Do we have any one-handed threatening shots? Let's see if he has one hand. That's two. That's two. Let's go to this one. Shot 11. It's two hands. She stabs him. He falls. Two hands. Stabs. Falls. That's 12. Let's go to 13. This will be our last one from this angle. two hands. Again. Alright, so we're not going to get it from that angle. Let's see if the wide shot has it. This one. I'm not going to get it from that shot. How about this one? This one's a little further in the conversation. Wait, who was that? Who's that in the background? That's me. Oh yeah, that was the dude from the place.
Yeah.
It's like, he's not moving. Where the fuck did he come from? Okay, so here we go. Let's see what we got here. It's the knockdown. Where's the shoulder grab? Here he has both hands down.
There you go. Jack her up, Steven.
Oh, stab him. Alright. So this is gonna be a bit of a challenge. So that's irreconcilable. So I don't have matching on either side. So what that means is this shot's gotta go because most of the shots that I do have are two-handed. But this one feels more natural. So do we just take it and try to get away with it? Or do we move this? If we move this, we switch angles with these, then if we have two hands here, we can have a second where, no, that's not gonna work. Nope, never mind. Stupid idea. So that doesn't work, so I'm gonna delete that shot. So now we have to reconcile this with this. Okay. That's gonna be tough. Seeing as how most of my footage is the two-handed stuff, I gotta opt to delete this one, which is the one that feels better and looks better. So now I gotta look for a suitable replacement. So let's see here. But before I do that, I'm just gonna continue down the timeline and see what else happens here. See if there's anything else I'm gonna need. Here's another rendition of what happened. Where he looks down. Now we could use this as a passage of time to say, hey, it's conceivable that he just put one of his hands down. So we could just try. No, can't do that either because he's looking that way. So whatever we cut to has to be him looking. So there's got to be another angle. I'm going to check the bank. So we want two-handed, looking back and threatening. here's a shot where he threatens Felix. That shot is gonna work. He ended it in the right place. And that's the end of camera A. Let's go to camera B. We're pretty far into the thing here. 13. We'd be breaking our 180 if we did use this shot. One of those so-called badasses. See B16. All right, here's B16. It's a two-handed threat. See, it's two hands in this shot. Can I link this? Let me see how it is. Okay, now we can get the gaze longer. Maybe we can connect those two. Let's clear the in and out. There, she looks really scared.
Left shoulder, Steven. Hands on. Over your left shoulder, direct breath. So if you move your necks. Look at that again.
Could that play better? What is this? Why did he turn to Felix?
So if you move.
Which one is this? This one is... B19, and I'm looking at 16. So what we could do is cheat it. We can go, he yells at him, and then we cut to the wide shot when he's not yelling but just looking back. We could do that. In fact, I'm going to try to see if there's a space to do that.
I'll kill you.
The eye line. Look at that crazy ass eye line. That's not gonna work.
No. Okay, hold on. Do that again, okay? Yeah. Taking that mic. That mic. Stop.
Don't ask what that crazy ass thing I'm wearing is. It's a fishing rod bag, okay? It just so happens to be the perfect thing that'll let you put your boom poles in there and cords. And we were on location, so I had to carry a lot of stuff with me. So anyways, so I don't think the wide one's gonna work out. That's not gonna work. Let's check the ninja shots. Nope. Alright, well this is gonna require me to be real creative. Scene switcher froze. Oh well, I guess I'll do it like this.